Welcome back to another episode of Mind Your Clutter. I just attended as a panel speaker a downsizing seminar, and the panel's focus was speaking to baby boomers or anybody interested in learning more about downsizing. And downsizing can happen at any point of your life. May find that you are moving due to a financial situation. You may be moving and downsizing due to a health situation. You may be moving and downsizing due to just purely wanting to simplify. And there's a lot to think about when you do start to consider that your next move is going to end up to be smaller in scale, in space. So what can you do now to make that transition that much smoother? And anything that you can do now is really the key. Starting early was the biggest takeaway from this seminar. We had experts on selling your home, buying a place, mortgages, had someone talking about law. And then, of course, I was there sharing my insights on the importance of decluttering. And all across the board, the number one piece of advice was starting early. Starting the conversation early, conversations with professionals, conversations with your spouse or your partner or anybody else that will be making this move with you, and a conversation if you have kids that live at home or don't live at home. So starting to think about what's ahead of you and how you're going to get there, who's involved, what are the steps to get there now, and what are the steps you're going to have to take when you get closer to making that downsizing transition. So anything that you can do to gather information, to take action, and of course, decluttering your space now to make that downsizing transition later that much smoother is going to take you leaps and bounds ahead of how some others may be doing things but out of a sense of urgency. Sometimes downsizing doesn't come willingly. Sometimes it comes because we've had an emergency. We've had an unexpected change in our life. So the more that you can do now to get ready, the better. So taking that action to start those conversations and start the decluttering process. These are a few things that I shared during the downsizing seminar. Who is going to be part of that process? Who's helping you? Decluttering is a physically and mentally draining process. So having support, whether that's your spouse, partner, kids, professionals, to help you with the physical work of actually getting items out of the home and to where they need to go next. So who is that? Who is your support system? And if you don't have an immediate support system, a built-in support system with family or friends, then you definitely do want to start that conversation, start reaching out to those area professionals such as organizers, and start talking about what that would look like for your space. So many, especially the baby boomers, that you may have lived in your house for 40 years. Some of us who may be younger, maybe it's only 10 years before you're making the change. Maybe you're only in a place for a few years before you realize downsizing is just the next step. But if you've been in your home for quite some time and you noticed that what has come into the home was not equal to what was leaving the home throughout all those years, then starting now is your next best step? So who is going to help you with that? Could you start a little bit at a time? One counter, one box, one drawer. The other question to ask, when? When is this all happening? If you start now, when could you add in an hour here and there? Could your son come into town and help you declutter for an hour, and then you take a break and enjoy a meal and maybe come back for another 30 minutes? Could you schedule a few hours with an area professional? Could you schedule a meeting just to start to talk about what it might take to get you to the point where you are ready to downsize? Put those on the calendar. Mind your clutter means taking action as much as it is shifting your mindset. And I will say that over and over. So when are these things happening? When is that person coming to your house? When are you going to make that phone call to start the process? What is going to move on to the next stage? What's making the cut? And what are you holding on to, or what is in your space that doesn't represent the life where you are now and where you're headed? Because if you are truly downsizing, there is not a way to bring everything that is in your home into the next space. And I would say everything that's in your home should not go to your next space. So start paying attention to what's important to you now. What is going to make that cut? What is still going to be a part of your life and where you are and the things that you need and the things that are important to you in that next phase, in that downsized phase? And then where? Where are you downsizing to? What does that space look like? Where are the things that are not making the cut going to go? And a lot of people do get stuck with the where. Where do I donate this? Where can I sell this? If you start with those conversations and having that information before you dive in, it's going to make that a lot easier. Knowing what your resources are, knowing who you're going to call to help you, knowing your options locally for donations. And then how? How are you going to put this process into place? Is it going to be the village that's supporting you? You might have a little help from this person. You might have a little help from this person. You might schedule this service. How is that all going to work together? So starting to put those pieces in order and recognizing that it's the process and it's going to be a journey to downsizing. And when you are able to have a conversation with those other people that are involved, maybe it's your spouse, that you are able to have this conversation now while they are well and able. Because when we wait for the last minute to do something, we may not have the opportunity to have that conversation with the other people that are involved. And 2 action items that you can do today to better ensure a smoother transition in downsizing tomorrow. And the first thing is giving something away. And here's what I'm going to ask you to try. Try to give away the permission to let go. Permission to your spouse, your partner, your children. Because if they have never had this conversation with you and they don't know that it's okay to let go, they may end up holding on to the items that don't truly matter. And the way that the next generation or the next person to know what truly matters to you is to have that conversation now while you are well, while you are here on earth. So beyond giving the permission to others to let go of what may be yours, bring them through a tour of your home. Walk through every space. And as you're doing this, point out the things that matter to you and share that story of what's behind it and why it matters to you. Point out to the things that actually you may not even like. Because what I find is generations hold on to items that they have made a story up without actually knowing the full details. They may just assume that was important to that person, when in reality, what if they just picked it up at some free stand on the side of the road and they thought that they could use it, brought it home, realized they didn't even like it, but it stayed in the space. And now this is something for generations that they're saying, oh, they loved this item. We have to keep it. I would feel so bad letting this go. This was grandma's favorite. So go through, talk to the people who will be coming and helping you with this process down the road, even if it seems far away. Even if it seems you are years out from downsizing, share the stories of what's in your home that matters to you. Take a video of you sharing it. How wonderful of a memory would that be? Hearing the story come from the person who actually owned it and to hear in their voice that they loved it and they valued it and they treasured it and why. Those are the things we want to pass on, are the stories. So if you can give away permission to let go and to offer a tour of your home, those are two beautiful steps forward in preparing to downsize. And if you're on your own, and if you're not that physically able to do your own decluttering and getting things out of the home, start with something small. Start with that counter, start with that drawer, start with that box, and do a little bit every day so that the next phase of your life, you're only bringing what truly matters. And you're leaving space for more of what life is to you now and in that next phase. That might mean letting go of old traditions, of old hobbies, of past identities. You may have to start that process of decluttering the attachment to the physical items. But the earlier that you start, you can follow your own pace through the process. So if you are getting close to downsizing and you do need help, you can call me. We can make a plan together. And then what you're creating for your next phase of life is smoother. Then down the road, if the unexpected happens, because we know that the unexpected does happen, we know we're going to be up against things in our future. So by preparing and doing the work now, you'll be able to put your energy and your time into those unexpected places. So if you do anything, just remember, start early. Have the conversation, even if it feels hard. And there's a pit in your stomach and it's not something that you want to talk about, or it's not something that you feel you're supposed to talk about. Go into it expecting the best and go into it opening the communication lines so that your downsizing transition is easier and smoother. And even if you aren't moving your home physically, if you feel that your current home is of abundance of items and accumulation, and you just want to downsize your physical items, get started today. Have those conversations today, whether you're moving or whether you're not, because when there is less clutter, there is more room for you. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mind Your Clutter podcast. If after listening, you've gained even just a boost of motivation to start thinking about your clutter and taking action to clear it, I would love to hear from you through email or an Instagram DM. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating and a review so we can continue to grow and inspire others just like you to mind their clutter. In the meantime, I'll be here cheering you on in your next step forward with living with less clutter and more you.